Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday. Here we are, almost at the almost a third of the way. No, 3/4 of the way through the month of May. So time moves quickly as we just have so much going on, and things keep busy. And see everybody here, see who shows up, and then the guests are just every one of them has been amazing, and this one is going to be the same way. This is going to be a lot of fun today. I know it because Troy is just a lot of fun to talk with in the first place. But as I do all the time, first off, check on those around you. Check on those who you know they're going through difficulties. They've gone through difficulties. Maybe it was a medical issue, family issue, work issues, all kinds of stuff. But so often it's like we're there when it's happening, and then they start to put the mask on. They start to smile and they look like they're doing fine, but they're not. So you need to check in on them, see how they're doing, see what's happening, because all of us are so good at wearing a mask. And when you talk to them and you're like, how are you doing? And they say, fine. Remember that fine is feelings inward, not expressed. That's how Agape put it. And it makes so much sense because that's this world. I just think of the checkout at the grocery, and somebody's like, how you doing? You say, fine. And that's the end of the conversation because it's like nobody cares. It's just a catch-all to give an answer and go on to the next thing. So when you check in for real. And when I look at my sponsors, I always begin with my dear sis, Dr. Constance Leland with Level Up Academy. Check her out because she has access to so many things. And it really is amazing what she has. The publicity queen that she is, education, Netflix of education, Level Up is right. That's where it's at. She is putting learning lessons in almost everything that she does. And I just love how she does that. When it comes to publicity, she has her own publicity room. She has access to all these different industries. She's got a podcast, TV show, radio, live stream, and it just keeps growing. When I look at where she's at in social media, it just keeps growing. And when you're ready to put something out there, you've got a book, you've got a new product, you've got a new company, and you want to get the word out, she's the one to talk to. She's the one to say, hey, this is what I got, because like I said, she's an educator and queen of publicity. She's going to make sure that what you are ready to put out there, you are ready. That it's not just, oh, you want to do this? Okay, fine. We'll do something and send it and see what happens. No, she's going to make sure that you are ready to take that step. And if you're not, she'll give you ideas on how to get ready so that you're not wasting time. You're not wasting money. You're ready. You get your name out there and you can start. Then we have the Hounds of Business. And with the Hounds and Mike Ashebrainer, here's a group that it's collaboration over competition. That's what I love seeing within the Hounds of Business. When I look at what people are doing there, sometimes you look and you see, wow, these three people are working together and it seems like they're all doing the same thing. When you look closer, they may be doing something that you could say is the same, but they're not the same. And when they work together, collaboration means you get to reduce some of that anxiety. You get to reduce some of the stress. You've got other people to bounce ideas off of. You've got a team going in to create something amazing instead of having to do it by yourself. So look into the Hounds of Business, see what they've got, see what's going on, and see how you fit and can start collaborating with others. Because just even though somebody is doing the same thing that you are, that doesn't mean they have the same audience. That doesn't even mean they have the same focus. And you might find that when the two of you work together, more doors open for each of you. And then I have my dear sis Danielle with CNM Consulting. And if there's somebody that knows HR, it is Danielle. She has a leading management and advisory consulting firm that specializes in human resources. They're centered around an empathy-driven and heart-led solution process, ensuring that there's compliance with the regulatory requirements while fostering a culture of trust and workplace excellence. She understands empathy. She understands belonging. She understands the requirements. And when you put them all together, you come up with a really amazing chance to build your HR, build your company, and have something that you can grow and create a space of belonging. And that's really what we need, is more belonging in this world. And then I'll just throw this up because we're in the writing process. So yes, it's on its way. It's going to be published next month. Our authors have done their first edit. They are now in the second edit stage, and it's going to be amazing when you get these stories, because we had a reading with authors this weekend, and the stories that are going to be in this book are phenomenal. So there will be more details as we get closer. But now, let's see who is here. And speaking of my dear sis Danielle, there she is. And Lisa's up. And every time I see Lisa, I love to plug her, because the menopause dietitian and coach. Ladies, when it comes to perimenopause and menopause, this is the go-to person. She knows almost everything. Well, nobody's a total expert, right? But if you get a question, she's got the answer. That's really what it comes down to. And guys, you get to go through andropause. You're not immune from all of this. Sounds like something new, but when it comes to it, again, Lisa's the person to talk to. She knows all of this stuff. She knows how to talk it. She knows how to work with and take you through it. And look at the diet, because quite frankly, a lot of us could probably use some work on the diet. I know I could. So I definitely need some help on that one. And dear sis Danielle and Lisa and Miguel, who is one of our authors. So with that, I'm going to jump in, and yeah, he's ready.
Whoa!
And away we go. Because I know you've got like an amazing story. Every time I see you, the energy is just phenomenal. The topics, because it's like we said before, it's like we don't know where this one's going to go. It's fun to see when you're on other shows which ones kind of seem to have you on a track and which ones there is no track.
There's no track today.
There's no
And
track today.
I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Because what I do like to do is start with kind of a little bit of background and what you gave me, and I just put it all into the show. I mean, it's a freaking amazing bio as it is, and the story and the book that's coming. And I mean, you've got so much popping right now.
It's a busy time. Yes.
So what do you want to tell people? Like CJ,
Well,
let's go back 20 years. I'm like, what do you want to tell people about what got you to where you're at right now?
what got me to where I'm at right now? That's a good question. I like the way that you put that. Okay, so how did I get to where I am now? You know, I think the best way to answer this is I got here because I in the span of a year, less than a year actually, like ran into a ton of really massive and impactful things in my life that I couldn't solve. And that really challenged everything that I had thought about myself before. And a lot of I understand them to be more like toxic beliefs that I held. Mainly the big two, I guess, are that, I thought asking for help was a sign of weakness. So I didn't want to ask anybody for help. But then you run into these things that are just bigger than you, or I ran into these things that were bigger than me. And I didn't end up having a choice then. And it taught me that was okay, that actually asking for help is a sign of maturity. So that was number one. And number two is like, I prided myself so much on being a fixer and being a problem solver. It would not be uncommon for people to everyday small talk, like, hey, what do you do for a living? And I just tell them, like, I just solve problems. I solve problems all day. That's what I do. But then when I ran into these problems that I couldn't solve, what I realized was it's not because I wasn't smart enough to think of a way to solve them. And it wasn't because I wasn't willing to work hard enough to solve them. It's because maybe problem isn't the right word, but there were no solutions to these that exist. Inherently, they didn't have any solutions. And that was unfathomable to me in the year before all of this happened, because I thought you could fix anything. And now I think exactly the opposite. In fact, I started getting so much better results when I stopped trying to fix everything and started nurturing the things that I actually mattered in my life. It blew me away. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I would have figured, classic human response. I wish I would have known that before. Right. So that is really like the biggest shift, I suppose, that got me from where I was just a few years ago to where I am now, is that I realized that, it's, I'd say this to everybody, like, your life isn't broken. I don't think you need to fix it. You just need to nurture the things that are going to be around for a long time, and you're going to put yourself in a better position and get better results for all of the things that you can fix, right? Like, you can fix a flat tire. You can, there are some things that you can fix, but not the most important things. The most important things need to be nurtured.
Yeah, well, I totally get that. But what jumped out at me is you're talking about the ask for help, and I get the piece about feeling like it's a weakness, especially if you feel like you have to be strong and you have to be able to do everything. For me, it's I don't like to bother people.
Yeah.
And so when I need help, I don't say anything, because I feel like everybody is so busy and everybody has other things on their plate. I just need to just deal with it.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh my God, you're speaking to my heart right now. Yeah. I feel that all the time. Here's a great story. So before I got sober, I worked in whiskey and I worked in wine, and but one of the whiskey companies that I worked for a long time, it got sold, and I got a chunk of money out of that because I had some equity, and we did lots of grown-up things with a lot of that money, but I was like, I deserve a treat, so I splurged. I bought myself the giant wine fridge, right? The thing, hundreds of bottles of wine. And, I had a growing collection at that point, and I wanted to take care of it. And I felt like, I could spend a little money on myself. So now that I don't drink, I don't really have the need for a gigantic wine fridge that's, more than 6 feet tall. I don't need that anymore. So we sold it to a friend, and it was a little poetic. We sold it to them the day I found out my book went to the printer. So it's done and done, right? So this is great because it's a little bit of I spent money from alcohol on this thing, and now that I'm moving to a very different chapter, I'm getting rid of this thing.
Literally
Getting rid of it. And the thing is not light. it weighs like 300 pounds, but I get it on a dolly and I roll it outside. They pull their truck up and, you know, we get the tailgate down, we roll it just up and we lean it against the tailgate. And then we're just going to pick it up and slide it in the rest of the way. And so my friend, you know, kind of bends down and gets one side. I bend down and on the other. And my wife is like, hey, do you want some help? Like, you have one shoulder, man. Do you want some help with that? And I'm like, I don't know. I got, like, don't worry about it. I got it, you know? And then, you know, so 1, 2, 3, and then it's in half a second. I'm like, nope. And we have to put it down. And she says, hey, man with one shoulder, do you want some help with that? And I said, yeah, I guess so. And then guess what happened? 1 second, they had this thing up and in the back of the truck. Easy for them, right? But I was like, oh, I got it. I don't want you to have to worry about it. So the same thing that you're saying. And I was like, man, this is a lesson that I'm going to constantly have to learn. And progress, not perfection, classic recovery mantra. But the second I wasn't like, no, give me one more chance. You know, I was like, okay, yes, I will accept your help. I just needed to try once on my own. And then they took care of it. So yeah, I completely understand not wanting to bother someone. And I like Simon Sinek on this because, and you're nodding like you've heard this, but if somebody listening hasn't, I know that I feel great when I get an opportunity to help a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so why deny your friends the opportunity to have that feeling? If you don't ask for help and you don't open the door to allow them to help you, then they're never going to get that good feeling that you get when you help people. And I think that's a really good framing of his. And I like it a lot. And I was reminded of it a couple weeks ago because I see that all the time. And I see friends who do that, who are going through really hard things. And even when there's the offer for help, they don't accept it when I think they should. And maybe even they know that they should. And I will tell you, when they finally come around, and I'll just speak from personal experience. When I finally came around and said, I will accept the help that you guys are giving to me because you clearly see that I need it, I felt really good. They felt really good. It was such a more positive thing for all of our lives, but also for our relationships. And so, yeah, I'm very big. I wrote about this in my newsletter 2 weeks ago. I'm very big on like, yeah, accept the help when you need it, because the person offering to help is going to feel great. They're going to feel great because of it. So don't deny them the opportunity to feel great.
And the other thing too, when you talk about, just keep this in mind going forward, because as you were talking about, you know, you're turning the page, a new chapter and all this stuff. And I said, literally, I'm talking about the book.
Oh,
so I mean, it's you have that literal aspect, and whenever you talk about it, it's like you could talk the story and then you literally are turning the page, going to a new chapter, because you've got the book to kind of like point to.
Yes. Which is very good. I'm very excited about it. I just shared with some folks. So I'm in the process now where the book is done to the printer in August. It's going to come out in August.
Okay.
It will widely come out in August. I have a couple copies that I can pre-sell right now. But I'm not here to give a hard plug, but where I am in the journey of that now is I'm about ready to record the audiobook. And I had a choice in that process.
Uh-huh.
Choice number 1, get a professional. Have somebody read it. This is what they do for a living. They will do a good job. Or I could do it myself. And everybody that I talked to, when I told them, you know, was going to do I said, oh, I'm writing a book. They would say, will you have an audio book? And I said, yes. People like to listen to books. I get it. I said, yes. And I said, well, you're going to read it, right? And I said, well, I don't know yet. Like maybe. And they said, you have to. But like, so there's like this divergence there, right? Where I get it. Like I like it when authors read their own audiobooks, especially if it has like some type of memoir, or it's like stories about their lives, because I want to hear, it feels more authentic.
Right.
On the flip side, professionals are professionals for reasons, because they're really good at it, right? And so it was a little bit of a tough choice, but ultimately, yeah, I decided to read it myself. And I just this weekend set up my audiobook recording studio in a tiny little closet in my house. It's like just as big as me, with a little screen, and then a bunch of my kids' stuffed animals in there to dampen the sound. So that's where I am in the process for that, is audiobook.
Well, you're the right choice for it. When it comes to, especially the more personalized ones, and if you think about a lot of the audiobooks that are out there, especially in that nonfiction realm, which ones are better to listen to? Quite often, it is the author, because they've got more invested into what's written.
Yeah, and I'm gonna understand the tone and the intonation, but I could have had a really smart British guy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, just kidding. But yeah, that was I'm looking forward to that. And the sound engineers are listening to my sample right now to make sure that I don't need to change the room at all, or my settings and everything, and then I'll be off and running on that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be good. I'm excited to be able to read it myself. And the text that I've gotten just today of people being like, you have to, validates my decision. So,
well, okay. So you have a personality that's good for this too. So you may find that this may open another career opportunity for you by the time.
So I'll share this story. So I sent this story to on my newsletter this morning, because it was about this decision. But way back, like my first grown-up job, I moved to Washington, D.C., and it was being a wine broker. But like in very loose terms, when I showed up, it turned out that this was actually a telemarketing job, like calling people up and trying to sell them $500 cases of wine over the phone. Part of that job was reading the script about the wine, right? I was terrible. I did everything else so well. I could, speak to the assistant who picked up the phone to talk to the buyer, like everything. When I got to the reading of the script, awful, so bad. And I was they hired 7 people, and then every day they fired 1 person until they ended up keeping 2. And I was the last guy that got fired. And she just said, some people, it's just the phone and the script, and they can't read it and they can't convince it. So, but that was 20 years ago. And I think I'm a little better now. And these are my own words, so I understand them better. And so now I'm excited to like make this jump and develop a new skill. So ultimately, this choice was about, one, I could delegate to a professional. And there's something that's really attractive about that, right? I have a lot on my plate, and would it be nice if somebody else just did it and did a really good job? Yes, that would feel good. But I would lose some authenticity, and I would lose out on the opportunity to gain a skill. Yeah, maybe the book doesn't work out and I become a voice actor. Who knows? I don't know. But it's also probably going to make me better on things like this. And, because I'm going to get a voice coach out of the whole thing and everything else. And probably better speaking. Like I'm a pretty good speaker, but this will probably help me improve that too. So I'm going to end up with a lot of benefits that are ancillary to just this audiobook, and that ultimately tipped the scales. So you're right on. Yeah, you nailed it.
Well, I just hear it with the personality, and I've heard I it was a few years ago, but I was in an online conference, and one of the people that was there was just that he was a voice actor. I mean, he was an actor and other stuff, but he was also a voice actor. So it also depends on the type of genre that you are looking to be a voice actor for,
Yeah.
because these kind of books, you want to put the enthusiasm in, but you don't have to worry about trying to narrate different characters.
Yeah.
When I listen to some of the others, I mean, one of the ones I listened to, Dilvish the Damned, recently, which is a favorite book of mine growing up, and having this guy that's reading it,
Yeah.
and you're hearing his voice basically try to give a different character to every person,
Yeah.
and you just and then you kind of wonder, how do you remember to get the same voice for each for this person when you didn't have them for like 5 or 10 minutes?
Susanna, my wife does this. It's incredible. Like she reads to the kids at night. Like we all go into the bedroom and she reads and every character has a different voice. They're all like so magnetizing, or like, you know, I'm mesmerized by her skill. Like she's incredible. I don't know how she does it. And then that is the other thing. Like maybe when I get to the end of this, I'll be like, my kids will want to listen to me read them stories instead of mom, you know? So like maybe I can like notch myself up on the parent scale a little bit. But I'm blown away. Like I'm talking like all the Harry Potters, they all have different voices. And even if they have like British accent, they're all different version. I'm in awe. I'm in awe.
Yeah, you just never know what's gonna pop up. But I mean, you've got so much that you've gone through, and even your story alone, just to look at, you were getting ready, quite frankly, you were getting ready to turn to the next chapter
Yeah.
when somebody threw in a chapter that was unexpected that you had to go through first.
Yes.
So it's like, we'll keep the book analogies going here, because
Yeah, it felt like, and for anyone who was unaware, so I got, you know, I checked myself into rehab. I got sober, and on my 98th day, the doctors found a tumor that ended up being a pretty serious, rare, aggressive cancer. And it did feel like, you know, I got that it was my last week of treatment. I was supposed to graduate. And I remember walking into my therapist's office, and I sat down on her couch, and she looked at me and she gave a big sigh. She said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. The group has just been challenging today, and I'm so happy to have this really positive meeting where I can start all of your discharge paperwork because you're doing so well." And I just said, I said, "This is not going to be as easy of a meeting as you thought it was going to be," and told her about my tumor and asked her if I could stay for another couple weeks because I felt so vulnerable. And we opened this discussion about asking for help. And that was a moment that I'm proud of because I needed more support to help me through all of the things that I didn't know. I had a really wide range of outcomes when they first found, because they didn't exactly know where it was before my official diagnosis. Like it could have just been something benign, you know, take a pill, it goes away, or I die. It's
right.
somewhere in there. And, you know, it took about a week and a half or 2 weeks. So pretty fast in the grand scheme of things. But when you're living through those weeks, every day feels pretty long. But I did recognize in that moment, like I am not prepared to face this without the help that's gotten me and kept me sober for these 100 days. Like, if I want to be sober in another 100 days, like, I need to stick around for a little bit. And of course, she said yes. And so it did not, in fact, end up being my last week of treatment. I said 2 more weeks. But that was a moment when I definitely saw myself in a position where I was like in over my head a little bit. And I got lots and lots of support from my friends and family, which were great. But I also needed a little bit more. And I had the wherewithal in that moment to say, like, can I stay? And yeah, it felt like, the 97th day, or like as I was looking forward to graduating, yeah, I felt like I was at the peak, like I had done something really great, and it was all going to be downhill from there. And then oh, look at that. Mountain climbers talk about this, right? Where they get to the false peak. They think, they get to they're like, you can see, and then they get to the peak, and then they see the actual peak behind it. And that's what it felt like. It felt like I got up there, and then just this whole other thing that was much bigger in front of me just appeared. And I was like, oh. And it was tough. And I will tell you that the process that kept me sober the first 100 days, there were holes in it. I had lost, since I got sober, I lost like 20 pounds, like working. People do this, they stop drinking and they start taking care of their health and everything else. I put it all back after my cancer diagnosis. I ate ice cream every single night. And I didn't realize it at the time, but before I got sober, I did the same thing with like 4 cocktails instead of 4 scoops of ice cream, right? Like,
Right.
Kids would go to bed, time to decompress, time for me time, or like, there's whatever you want to call it. And I just replaced the whiskey with ice cream, and better ice cream, better than whiskey for me, but not great, still not great. And it wasn't until it was like New Year's, it was a few months later, like I stepped on the scale and I was just like, oh my God. And then, realized that was really like my coping mechanism, and then started to develop other ways to manage those emotions instead of stuffing them or eating them and things like that. But better place now for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you've got, if I remember right, you've got your framework too.
Yeah. So this is the framework that I use to stay sane and sober through that diagnosis. It has been around for a while. I tracked down the first time it got put in publication was like back in the 60s. And it came from an AA pamphlet. But basically the stats on people, like, addiction is hard.
Right.
We can say that. Addiction is hard. And the stats on the number of people who make it their first year without relapsing are not very good. It's scary. If you include all addictions, it's like over 85% of people don't make it a year without relapsing. Now, that includes things like smoking, things like behavior addictions, like eating or video games or porn or things like that. If you just look at alcohol, though, it's still like 2/3 to 3/4 of people don't make it a year. So I asked my therapist, I said, where do people mess this up? And my plan was one that I had run in business for my whole life, which was figure out what people mess up and don't do those things. Simple.
Sure.
She said to me, well, people don't make good decisions when they're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And I said, uh-oh. Like, you can't just not do those things. Those things are all part of being human. And you can't just avoid them. Now, I didn't really like the way they framed HALT to me. So HALT is the easy way to remember that. And I didn't like the framing because she said, if you feel like you want to drink, ask yourself, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And if so, go take care of those things instead of having a drink. And that to me felt like it was going to take so much willpower. And I did not make it to rehab by having a lot of willpower, right? So I tucked it away, and it was in the back of my mind, but I was like, there's something here. Like, this framework makes sense. I just needed to find a different way to harness it, because that felt very reactionary. And so I just flipped it and I said, how can I be proactive about these things?
Right.
How can I eat in a way so I don't get hungry enough to get hangry? Like, instead of stuffing my emotions, like, face them and process them, like, ongoing. How do I reach out to people and make sure that I'm not feeling isolated or lonely, especially when I'm sad? And then how do I keep my energy up? How do I, prioritize sleep and exercise so that I can, like, keep it all going? And so I developed a little, it's a bit like a checklist, or it's a little bit like a journal that I do every morning. It's like 90-second. It's a 90-second morning check-in. And then I write. So that takes longer than 90 seconds, the journaling aspect of it. The journaling is really important to the process. It's actually the very last thing that I would give up in my self-care. But, by looking at, like, how's my mood, how am I eating, how am I sleeping, and am I accomplishing my goals for the day, I put that all ends up on a graph, which is really useful because you can see the story of a graph pretty easily. And when all these things get graphed together, you can see how they affect each other, right? And
Right.
we don't think about it. I hear people talk about mental health and physical health and emotional health, but they're not in silos. They all exist together. And so the idea of mental health or emotional health, it's all just health. And I wish that's a thing that I would have known as a younger man, that it's all, health is not just going to the gym. It's, making sure that you keep your relationships healthy, your mind healthy, your emotion, it all is bound up. I like to say it's wound up tighter than a ball of yarn that a kitten's had for an hour. You can't pull it apart. You got to take care of all of them together, but you can do it a little bit at a time. It doesn't have to be this massive thing that you do every day. It can just take a little bit of time. And if you're consistent with it, you'll have much better results.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I like that approach because they're not siloed. None of that stuff is siloed, and you can't do one without the others.
Right.
They're so intertwined.
Yeah. And sometimes I see that, right? Like, I see people and they come to me and they say, like, oh, I'm having trouble with X, Y, or Z, but it doesn't make any sense because I'm exercising every day, right? I'm like, okay, like, that's good. You should do that. But just going for, like, a run every day or lifting every day or whatever is like, you can't lift your way out of all of this stuff, right? Like, and actually, like, maybe this is a hot take, but my hot take is, like, if you were just going to do one thing, like, call your friends, because I end up with a bigger smile after a conversation with my friends than I do for doing anything else.
Right.
And so, yeah, just exercising or just eating right isn't quite going to get you to where you need to be. You have to wrap it all up and especially embrace your relationships. I think of all 4 quadrants, after researching the book and writing it, that to me is the most important one, are your relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I hear you talk about that all the time.
Yeah. And it's great. And that's why, that's why I'm here. Like, I love your vibe, because you're constantly talking about friendships and building relationships, and your gratitude project right now. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so into that, because sharing gratitude ultimately is in service to relationships, and so it's just a great project that's right up my alley. So yeah, that's why I'm here, because you get it,
And that, in terms of the gratitude, it's going to be interesting when these stories come out, because they are. It's kind of funny. You've got a group of different people,
Mm-hmm.
and when they start reading the stories, because we've got our own system,
Mm-hmm.
but all of these different stories,
Yeah.
they have a common thread that was unexpected.
Yeah.
And it would be a case where maybe a couple of stories will have their own common threads, and yet a group of them would have another common thread that you just look
Mm-hmm.
at it and go, yeah, they make sense. And
Yeah.
it's going to be fun when I consider what order I want to put these in, because that's the other thing we do. We're very specific about what order
Oh, it matters.
anything goes in. Unlike we've seen so many of these anthologies, and it's just like first come first chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and or they just alphabetical. They don't want to think it. And CJ started it, and from the very first book, we're thinking, and the way I like to put it is, each of these stories has their own soul, and that all contributes to the soul of the book.
Yeah.
And I don't know which is bigger, the individual souls or the soul of the book, because they're all just as important.
Sure. That makes sense to me. Yeah. I was going to ask you, yeah, without spoiling anything, like what are some of the themes that you're seeing from like all of these people writing from different parts of the world and different experiences and perspectives?
Well, we have that. We have a lot of those different perspectives, and when it comes to who we have, I mean, some of them are very personal stories.
Yeah.
It's things that have happened within someone's life. Others are, one is a bit more of a research paper.
Okay.
So we like I said, we've got the variety, and we had this in the last book, especially since that one had the theme of that book was no theme, which was so much fun watching CJ, because it's just breaking her mind. There's no structure. This it's got more
Yeah.
structure because we've got this,
Yeah.
but it's still got its unique aspects, and we opened the door to go even bigger on the word count. So instead of being that 2,000 to 3,000 word that we normally have, this one we're talking 1,500 to up to 5,000 words.
5,000. Yeah.
And the way, and CJ knows this, I mean, the way my week has been, last week, because we had our meeting with authors for editing on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I basically ended up writing mine. I started it because of everything else that was going on. I basically started. Yeah, I'm saying this out loud. I started at 8:30 p.m. on Friday night,
Uh-huh.
and had my 5,000 words done by 6:30 a.m. in time for the meeting.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I have never written like that before. I
Wow.
pulled a CJ. She's done that on some of these other books. She would tell me, it's like, I just started writing last night. Rebel with a Cause. That's the one that really happened. She just started writing, and suddenly she was done with her
Yeah.
chapter.
Just in the zone.
In the zone.
Yeah.
In one of the first books that we did together, there was like a group meeting over the weekend, and then she just powered through and exceeded the word count so much and had to whittle it down. So
Yeah.
we're getting used to this. There's those times that you can just sit down and it just flows.
Do you have a process to get in the zone, or it just kind of happens sometimes?
It kind of happens. Part of it is I have to get my butt to just sit down and do it.
Yeah.
Once I've done that,
Step one, sit down.
That's the most important step, is quit thinking you've got other things to do. Just
Yeah.
do it. And that's what happened on Friday. Is I hit that point. I still dragged it out a little bit. I kind of wanted to start more at 6:30. It really wasn't. I didn't really start until like 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
I have my neuro gum. I've got. I that night I was probably running my BTO music channel from uh, one of Pandora.
Yeah.
So it's like my main music stations. Um, I've got a BTO one, which takes me back to high school and college
Yeah.
days, early 80s, because those were the songs I was hearing a lot of. I have my Celtic women,
Mm-hmm.
and those will have a lot of Celtic
Yeah.
dialogue. So
Yeah.
it's like I have no clue what they're saying. I don't care. I love the song. I love the tones.
Yeah.
And I'll throw Christmas in once in a while. I've got some some Christian ones that I'll go back to like 5 years ago
Yeah.
type. So Toby Mac, and
Yeah.
then I have one that I started last year. I call it Powerful Women. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got like um, Megan Trainor and Ava Max. It's just songs that resonate with me. So Sia with Unstoppable, Megan Trainor. It's like one of hers is No,
Yeah.
and so when you listen, there's and some of them there's one that I can't remember if it's Kings and Queens, or basically one of the lines is if all the kings had their queens on the throne, then basically everything's better.
Sure. Yeah.
But going through all these, and then of course Eurythmics with Aretha Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
So and
Yeah.
On Vogue. On Vogue's another one I absolutely love.
Yeah. So you have a whole, you have a whole vibe.
Eclectic.
Yeah.
It's very eclectic. If I look at some of the other stations, there's a Madness station, and a Men at Work station, and half a dozen Christmas, half a dozen um, Christian, but I
Yeah.
have the ones I go to. My
Yeah.
Straight Chaser Christmas is often up there with the Celtic Christmas, and I
Yep.
think there's one other one that those will be the ones that will Christmas time get the most play.
I was gonna say, do you listen to those like it's May, right? Do you listen to those in May when you write too?
I was listening to Christmas in the last
I
2
love
weeks.
it. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
start playing Christmas music the day after Christmas.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I do a similar I do a similar thing. I kind of have uh yeah, playlists for the different tasks I'm doing, you know?
Right.
So like when I'm sitting down to write, I don't even know how. I'd never heard of this band before. I don't know anything about them, but they're called The Amazing. And it's, there's some vocals, but it's light on the vocals. And the album is also called The Amazing. And it's just like on a loop. And what I found was then after I had done that enough times, like, I sit down, I'm like you said, that is step number one. You got to sit down in front of it, and like light a candle or an incense, turn that on. And it's like Pavlov. It's like, okay, the ideas and the
Right.
writing just like start to come. And I have a different playlist I listen to when I edit, and a different, but like it's sort of, it unlocks something there where it's like, oh, if I'm feeling scrambled, it's like I play that, I sit down, and then it's like, oh, it starts to come. So I'm not just sitting there being like, what was I gonna write again? I forgot. Like, well, yeah. So we have a similar technique there.
Yeah, and it's I've found the music that I could listen to in the 80s, that there's certain songs I just can't listen to them anymore.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which I mean, on the one hand, you're like, darn. I mean, let's face it. Highway to Hell and Hell's Bells have some of the best tunes out there, but I've reached the point where I can't listen to them anymore.
They had a time and place.
They had their time and place, and but I mean, you hear the music. If you could just strip the words out and just let the music play.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, another one too, in terms of just almost only music, is Bond. Bond, Eclipse, and there's another one that begins with E. It's 4 women, 3 on the violin, 1 on the cello.
Oh, okay. I don't know this.
And with these, it all began with Bond.
Okay.
And one of my favorite songs is Bond on Bond. So
Okay.
it's they do have an orchestra for that one, but it's the 4 of them playing the theme to James Bond.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So with that, and then they just have different styles, and when you look at them, when you look at the bands, it's like, okay, all 4 of these groups, they look very much alike. They could probably do classical, but it's very eclectic in terms of what they have,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of overlap between they'll play some of them the same thing. So
Yeah.
think of Kashmir being done with 3 violins and a cello.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like this. I like this idea. Yeah.
And so that's
Bond.
another one of my stations.
Okay, I'll have to look up Bond.
Here we've gone into the, okay, what songs do we want to play for what task we're gonna do? Whereas CJ, she's got movies playing all the time.
Oh, okay.
It's how our brains
Yeah.
work. For me, I can't quite have, if I know the movie, so it's like going into the mental health and the ADHD.
Sure. Yeah.
If I have a Star Wars movie on, I can probably do almost anything through it.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
gonna catch my attention to suck me in because I know it so well.
Yeah. Right.
If I put something, it's not there yet, but let's say that World War II movie that came out, I think last year, with the guy that plays Superman, the Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Mhm. Okay.
So I've only watched it a few times. It will still suck my attention, but it's getting to the point where I could have it on. I don't have to follow everything, so I can focus on stuff, but I got that noise in here.
Yeah.
And silence is really difficult. Yesterday was a total silence day. It was not easy, but it's what it had to be. Other days, it's like I need the noise. I need
Yeah. I need something in the background. I need a little something in the background, but it can't. Yeah, something that's not going to suck me in. Something that when I'm writing, something that is more melodic, and yeah, so I can get into a groove a little bit. And then when I need, a task where I need to be like a little more upbeat, then I change it up. But and as little words as possible. Sound. I started a lot of times I'll write to soundtracks. So I'll write to Beasts of the Southern Wild is a really good one, and I'll write to the soundtrack from Last of the Mohicans.
Soundtracks are difficult. I have to, because there's the crescendos and then there's the lulls.
Yeah,
Sometimes those lulls just don't work for me,
sure.
and especially depending on what I'm writing. I
Yeah.
mean, I already know when I do the 3rd book in this Armor of God series, which is kind of its own standalone, it's gonna be, I'm gonna have the Celtic music playing a lot, just
Mhm.
even though certain characters won't be in it because of that approach. It's such an important piece of the book because I created this land called Duinbrook that's very Celtic-y.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote the dialogue, I can't use Grammarly. Let's face it.
Sure.
I'm making up the words that are hyphenated because you're thinking, how would an Irishman or how would
Yeah.
Celtic, Scottish person be saying these,
Yeah.
not English. So
Yeah.
you want that in the head.
Yeah. It's almost like it's a hidden character in your book that nobody will see, but it's so important to the whole thing. It's very cool. It's a cool thing to think about.
It'll be interesting to see how soon until you start doing that.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you want to do fiction?
I don't know. It's never called to me before, but maybe a year ago I had a dream, a really vivid dream that I haven't forgotten yet, that would make a good story. I don't know how long this story would be.
That's
But
how I started.
yeah.
That's how I started. The very first story I did, I had just finished Ender's Game.
Mm-hmm.
And the dream that I had, it was very much based on Ender's Game, but it was also more of a cavalry with plant men and on this rocky scape.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that game. It was the game that you find in Ender's Game.
Yeah.
You have to go into that space chamber, and
Yeah.
so then somehow I turned that into a story, and the next thing I know, I've got a half a dozen of these K-Team cavalry stories, and then reading Ephesians that opened up the door for Armor of God, because once I figured out what my grandfather was numbering in his Bible, the next thought was, can I turn this into a fantasy story?
Oh, interesting.
So I took from something else and turned it into a fantasy story, and it's like, okay.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah. That's cool. That is cool. And yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever write that in a real way, but maybe, maybe.
Well, we said we didn't know where this thing was going to go, and it's like time has just flown.
I was going to say, we thought like things were funny, things were kind of earnest, and we're talking about soundtracks now. This is amazing.
Soundtracks and writing and
your
story.
Yeah.
And frankly, I have a feeling you'll have a whole lot more to write about beyond the book that you've got now.
I have plenty to write about. Yeah. Lots hit the cutting room floor. So there will be plenty more to write about. There's no doubt about that. And thank you for the space. This is everything that we said it was going to be, which was no idea. All over the place.
It's the fun way though. And the other thing is, as I'm looking at more writing.
Yeah.
There's both the book, but then also doing some of the smaller ones, doing some of the 20 to 30,000 word that it can be connected to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I was bouncing this off CJ, and now we've got an outline. We've got a structure for what I was thinking to put this. Start making some of these books that are good. They can be smaller. I can do them quicker.
Yeah.
But they're also popular in that they're going to be less than 100. They're going to be around that 100-page mark.
Okay. Sure.
But still impactful with what you put in it.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. Yeah. So, and I mean, like, I think that's quick and good. Like people like to have a beginning and an end, in a sitting, and that's manageable. This makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah.
So being able to do that, and then I just have to figure out how I want to play it with my stories, because I've got science fiction stories I want to pop out there, and I've hit the point where I'm not going to worry about publishers necessarily, because CJ and I can do pretty much everything when it comes to publishing now.
Yeah. You've had a few cracks at it. Like, you're comfortable there.
And we've done a lot of different types of publishing, so it's been a blast working with her.
And she's great. And you smile. She makes me smile all the time.
That's exactly what she just has that It's been fun too, because so many people they look at me as like they know what they've seen how much I've changed just because of her over the last year. So I want to make sure people know how to get a hold of you, how to find you, and any last minute nuggets you want to throw out there.
Sure. Super easy. Just go to troycarnes.com and you can throw your email there to keep in touch with me. I send out one, I shared a couple of the stories that go into my email newsletter, but they will keep you abreast of any new, all of the book information and all that, and just other stuff, it's certainly not a selling newsletter. My marketing guy probably wants me to sell more, but I want to give value. So yeah, go there. You can pre-order the book. I have a few copies that will go out before the launch, but book will be available in August. But all the information is there. Just go to troycarnes.com. And that's with a K, K-A-R-N-E-S.
Awesome. It's gonna be a blast to finally be able to read it when it comes out.
Soon. Yeah, go get your pre-order. Like I said, I have a couple copies that I'll send out before August, but otherwise you gotta wait. So
Okay.
Thank you for this space.
Oh,
this has been amazing.
Thank you for being here, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I will see everybody else that is here next week. So we'll see you in a week.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.